So this is my first generation Toyota 4Runner. This is a 1985 model with a solid front axle. I bought this car in a pretty beat condition. I was not looking for anything nice. I wasn't looking for a showroom quality car. I wanted something I could drive daily and just take on trails and get into the world of off-roading, because I've always just been a slammed hot boy. Mechanically, this car has been completely fine, but one thing I've always needed to change was the cosmetic of it, and not just the cosmetic, but the interior. The interior was a big thing. It was originally a brown interior, and I've always preferred gray or black interiors, just a lot more simplistic and a lot more monotone. Maybe because I'm not boomer status or something, I just can't dig the brown. This car has been super reliable so far, besides the few coolant issues I've been having. Goal of this car is to stay simple and reliable. It is going to be an overland car, so I do plan to camp and take it out on trails and go on little adventures with it, but I don't want to go to the extreme end where I'm climbing boulders and smashing up panels. I do want everything to stay nice and simple, kind of like how I have my RX-7. Nothing is at an extreme. Everything is very driver focused, everything is comfortable, everything is nice, but it can still perform. And that is the same goal with the 4Runner. The first thing I had to do was take apart the interior completely, which you probably seen in the last video. The carpet came out, the seats came out, the seats were swapped for second generation Toyota 4Runner seats. So with everything out, the first thing to do was layer down some sound deadening. So these are the two types of sound deadening that you need for your car. So you have butyl sound deadening, then you have foam sound deadening. This is more of a rubber kind of feeling, and this is just your kind of foam feeling. So you lay first the butyl down. This is to absorb vibrations, and then this is to kind of absorb sound. And on top of that, you would layer like a mass loaded carpet or something thick to kind of soak up sound. You actually don't need 100% coverage, so these little gaps that I have here and there actually won't make a difference, as long as this is the layer that's the rubber one, the butyl or whatever. So this thicker, heavier layer, it's really just for limiting vibration, like over here. You can kind of notice the difference. After laying about this much over, which is about, what, 80-90% covered, adding any more doesn't really make too much difference at all. So for this first layer, you just need to cover 70 to 80% of the surface. It's definitely a lot better than it was before. I haven't even pressed it on, and it sounds so much better. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell, but you can kind of hear the difference. And I haven't even pressed the sound deadening material into the panels yet. I think I bought 25 square feet, or 30, I think 36 square feet. And that is basically enough to cover up the entire rear section of this 4Runner, almost. I think I might be short a little bit. I'm reusing sound deadening in front, but for my application, this will be just fine. Or I'm using a lot more coverage on the wheel wells, just because I know wheel wells create a lot of noise. So I've layered almost the entire back of the car, at least the back panel area, with sound deadening. I am going to leave that corner over there untouched, just because this is the panel that is crushed, so hopefully I can get this pulled and at least straightened out a bit before I layer sound deadening behind it. This next part is probably the most annoying part of doing sound deadening, which is pressing everything down. You're supposed to use a roller, and I believe some kits with the sound deadening comes with a roller, but mine didn't. You could just take anything flat, like I'm just using this chiseled scraper thing. Just kind of, just press down on it. You could use something more round. Sometimes this end is sharp and it cuts into the sound deadening. So I'd recommend something long or big and round. And then obviously nothing too heavy, because this does tire you out pretty well. You also got to be careful not to cut yourself. Working between these panels is not comfortable, and you don't have good leverage, and it's very easy to just slip and slice open your arm. So I have the sound deadening layered up And the footwells over there, you can see I'm finishing up this corner here and then all around the back. So the next thing to do now is to start working on layering the foam. For the butyl sound deadening, you only really need to cover about 80%. But for this, you want to try and get as much coverage as you can. I woke up to a nice surprise this morning because we received the carpet for the 4Runner. Can't wait to put this in. I bought the full kit, which includes the front area, rear area, or rear seats area, and then the cargo area. So the full carpet for the car. I also got the mass backing on the carpet, so this is nice and thick and heavy. Right, Beckham? Alright, well, next thing to do now is to take everything out and lay this carpet down. So for painting plastic, you just need these two kinds of cans here. First one is a plastic adhesion promoter, and the second is the color of your choice. In this case, I'm trying to replicate the original Toyota gray. So I'm gonna do 3 coats, and it says 3 minutes between each coat. Another thing is I'm really only putting the adhesive onto parts that are being shown. So like underneath here I'm not too worried about. Underneath here I'm not too worried about. It's mostly just the front section here. Front here a little bit. I think this is covered by the dash, so even that doesn't really matter. And then the sides here. Just anywhere with this OEM texture is where I'm spraying the adhesive. Everywhere else is being covered up by other parts, so I'm not too worried about that. So after the last coat, you want to wait about 10 minutes. At least that's what the can says. Apply the paint within 10 minutes. So looks like we're going to paint. So I'm going to do the whole thing in gray first, and then I'll focus in on the actual parts that are being shown. And same thing, I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes between each coat. So this is looking good. This is looking real good. I'm on my last layer now, so I'm not really going to paint anymore on this because this is not being seen. But I will focus on the areas that are being seen, and we'll let this dry for tomorrow and see how that comes out. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is paint the dash. And if you know 4Runners, these things are like $500–600 if you want to get a good condition one. So instead, I've purchased one of these plastic covers, and this just fits right over the original. So instead of buying a new dash, a new foam dash for $400, I'm just gonna put a cover on this, paint it gray, and call it a day. Looking pretty good to me. We got the original dash painted. I didn't paint the whole thing because the only things you really see are the edges. And like down here, we have the dash cover, which goes on top of the dash, and this is obviously a lot smoother and a lot nicer. Now, the next thing to do is, as you can see, is I've kind of put the interior together mostly, but we got to take it apart and put this dash back in. I've been running without a dash for a while, but today's the day that the interior finally comes back together. There is one thing, which is if you get this exact cover, you need to put in the vents before you put in the cover. So I'm not going to glue in the cover for now, and I'm going to put the vents in at some later date. But for now, this will be basically the extent of my interior restoration until I gather the funds and time to put things together completely. Comes out. At some later date, I'll also be redoing the headliner. I'll probably do a completely separate video on restoring the top, and then I'm not gonna do the back panels for now. Like here you can see the panels are just completely exposed. I'm not gonna do the panels for now because I'm gonna plan to integrate a whole sound system in the new panels. So that'll be a whole sound system video. Yeah, but for now, this will be basically the last piece before this interior is considered quote-unquote complete by me until the next phase. These vents here that I need to replace are pretty expensive, and there is someone who does them like 3D printed, which is probably the route I'm gonna go because these original vents are like super brittle and they just disintegrate in your hands. So the smartest decision would be to go aftermarket and just get some 3D printed ones. A whole new 3D printed set is like $200, so that's gonna sit on my wish list for a while. Here's the new dash. This just snaps in place. Oh, another thing we did is put in these door panels, and from what I know is this, I don't know what year this came from, I forgot, but I know most of these door panels are all leather. This one is like a half leather, half cloth kind of thing. So I don't know if this was a special trim model or something, but I got, I guess, a more uncommon door panel. They also come with pockets here, which I haven't put in yet, but those will be going in pretty soon. And then on top of that, I got these doors with the corner windows, which is actually very, very nice on hot days. Yeah, well, that's the end of this video. Next stage is probably putting a big sound system in here so we can go thumping down the road. Because right now we're still running off of a portable speaker. And yeah, for now, this is it. And I like that now I can put stuff on top of this. Still needs to be glued in, but for now it'll work fine. This is the end of the video. This is the first time I completely stripped down and redid a whole interior of a car. It's a lot quieter, it's a lot nicer. It's finally looking like a complete car, at least from the inside. I will be taking this car on more adventures, overlanding, camping, those little road trips here and there. So subscribe and stick around if you want to see more of that.